Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a beginner bracelet tutorial for these diamond chevron bracelets. Like I just said, this is a beginner bracelet, so if you haven't really made any bracelets before and you're pretty new to bracelet making, this is a really great bracelet to start out with. It's super easy, it's only 3 steps. As always, feel free to check out the description box. I have my FAQ down there if you might have any questions. I also have a bunch of different helpful links that you might need, and I will also link the pattern that I used for this down below as well if you'd like access to it. But without further ado, let's just get into the tutorial. To make this bracelet, you are going to need some embroidery floss, and you're going to need to pick out 3 colors. 2 colors to be kind of the color of the chevron part of the bracelet, and then 1 color to be, it's almost like the boning of the bracelet. So in my example here, you can see my pink and blue are the chevron colors, and then my white is kind of the boning that goes throughout the bracelet. We're gonna go ahead and cut our strings for the bracelet, and we're gonna start with our 2 colors. For my bracelet, I am using pink and yellow, and for each of my colors, I'm gonna be cutting 2 strings that are each a wingspan's length. Once you have those strings cut, we're gonna go ahead and fold everything in half so that at one end you have raw edges and the other end has a loop at the top. Next, we're gonna cut our boning color. I'm using white, and I'd recommend cutting this one maybe around 6 to 8 inches longer than your wingspan. You will need a lot more of this thread than you will of your colored thread. And once you have that cut, go ahead and fold that in half so that at one end you have raw edges and the other end has a loop at the top. I'm gonna go ahead and group our 2 bundles of strings together, just like this, so that everything is connected. From here, you're gonna go ahead and start your bracelet however you would like. There are a couple ways I'd recommend starting this bracelet. You can start it with just a regular stitched loop. You can tie a knot and just start it from there. You can tie a knot and do twisted ties to make your bracelet adjustable. Or you can do the teardrop loop, which if you know how to do the teardrop loop, I would recommend that one because this bracelet is a diamond shape and the teardrop loop works really well when you have diamond shaped bracelets. If you need help starting your bracelet in any of the ways that I just listed, feel free to check out the description box as I have videos on how to do all of the different starts. Once your bracelet is started however you would like it to be started, go ahead and tape it down, and we're going to go ahead and organize our strings to make sure that they are in the right order to make this bracelet. As a quick reminder, my boning color is white, and then the 2 colors I'm using today are pink and yellow. Your string setup should be as follows: white, yellow, yellow, white, pink, pink. And then from there, it's just a mirror image on the other side. So pink, pink, white, yellow, yellow, white. So it's basically your 2 colors separated by your boning color, if that makes sense. I'm gonna go ahead and split my bracelet down the middle and set these strings off to the side because it's a little messy over here. And we are going to be segment knotting this bracelet, and it's basically just a chevron. So if you've made a chevron before, then you are already halfway there. So we're gonna go ahead and start this like a chevron. So we are gonna start with our outermost string on the left side, which is our white. I'm gonna grab the 2nd string in line here and group these 2 together. And with this pair of strings, I'm gonna be doing a forward knot. So to do a forward knot, we're gonna start with our left string. We're gonna cross it over the right string to create this 4. And we're gonna take our white thread here and pull it underneath and pull that string all the way through. And it's gonna get pulled up to the top of the bracelet. And we're going to repeat that same forward knot step, just like so. And doing it twice creates 1 full forward knot. I'm going to set that yellow string off to the side. My white string is going to be still my leading string. And we're going to pick up our next string in line going down the bracelet, which is my yellow. And we're going to repeat the same forward knot step. Setting that string off to the side, we're picking up my next string in line, which is now white. We're gonna do another forward knot. And we're gonna keep doing forward knots down this line of string until we get to the center of our bracelet. Once you have done that first row of forward knots, we're going to set all these other strings off to the side on the left side here, but I'm going to keep my white string in the middle. And we're going to go to the other side of our bracelet now, and we're going to pretty much do the same process, but we're going to do the inverse. So instead of doing forward knots, we're going to do backward knots. So I'm going to start with my very outermost string on the right, which is white. I'm going to grab my next string in line here, which is my yellow. With these as a pair, I'm going to be doing a backward knot. So instead of making a forwards 4, we're going to start with the right string and cross that one over the left to make a backwards 4. We're going to pull this tail through here, and then we're going to pull this all the way up to the top. And then to make it a full backward knot, we're going to repeat the same process again, just like that. I'm going to set that yellow string off to the side. My white string is still going to be my leading string. I'm going to grab my next string in line here, and I'm going to repeat doing backward knots all the way down my line of strings until I get to the center. Once you've done your full row of backward knots, we should be at the center of our bracelet here, and you should have both of your white strings together at the center. I'm going to go ahead and do a forward knot to join these two. And that creates our first full row. So as you can see, our first full row is just a normal chevron row. Now we're going to do our second row here. I'm going to set my strings to the right off to the side here. We're going to just focus on the strings to our left. And we're going to start with the same process again. So I'm starting with my outermost string, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to do forward knots over my first 4 strings. All right, there's 2. 3, and 4. After we did our 4 knots, the last string that we have to do a knot with is the white string at the center. And normally with the chevron, we would just do another forward knot here and be done with it. But for this pattern, we're actually going to do a backward knot with these 2 strings instead. So instead of the yellow crossing over the white is going to cross over the yellow, and we're going to do a backward knot. The yellow and white are going to switch places. I'm going to bring the white over to my other group of strings, and then my yellow is now going to be at the center. We're going to leave that yellow in the middle, and then on the right side of the bracelet, we are going to do the same thing that we just did, but the inverse. So we're going to do backward knots over our first 4 strings in line. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. After we did our 4 knots, when we get to the last string in line here, instead of doing a backward knot like we normally would, we're going to do a forward knot this time. So instead of the yellow crossing over the white is going to cross over the yellow into a forward knot. Those strings are going to switch places. I'm going to group my white string off to the side with the rest of my strings over here. And our 2 strings in the middle this time are actually yellow. I'm going to go ahead and join these 2 strings with a forward knot. And then for the third row here, which will be the last step in completing this pattern, we're gonna do pretty much the same thing that we just did, but instead of doing 4 knots, we're only gonna do 3. So I'm starting with my outermost string, which is yellow, and I'm gonna go ahead and do my forward knots over my first 3 strings. So there's 1, there's 2, and 3. And then once we reach our white string, instead of doing the traditional forward, we're going to do a backward again this time. Those strings are going to switch places. My white string is going to go off to the side here. My yellow string is still leading, and we have 1 last string in line, and I'm going to do 1 last forward knot with these. Like that. And then my yellow string is once again at the center. We're going to go over to the left side, do the same thing, just the inverse. So I'm starting with my outermost string, which is yellow, and I'm going to be doing backward knots over the first 3 strings in line. So there's 1, there's 2, and 3. And then once we reach that white string, instead of doing a backward knot, we're going to do a forward knot. Those are going to switch places. I'm going to group my white string off to the side. My yellow string is still leading. We have 1 last string in line here, so we're going to do a forward knot. All right, and after that's done, both of our yellow strings are now in the center, and I'm going to go ahead and just join these with a forward knot. And that is it. That is the entire design. That is the knotting process for this bracelet. So from here, we're going to just go ahead and start the pattern over at the beginning. So your first row will be just a normal chevron row because our white string is on the outside. So we'll do a normal chevron row. The row after that, we'll do 4 knots like normal, and then we'll do a backward knot and then join the centers. And then the third row, we'll do 3 forward knots and then a backward and then another forward and then join the center. You can also think of it like you are going to be doing your knots down your line of strings until you reach your white string, and then you know to do the backward knot on the left or the forward knot on the right, if that makes sense. So just go ahead and keep repeating those 3 steps until your bracelet is long enough. Here are how my bracelets turned out. I just did the triangle end for normal patterns here and then did twisted ties to end off these bracelets. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to leave them in the comments down below and I'll be happy to help you out. But thank you guys for watching this. I hope it was helpful. I love you guys and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.